Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. And today's subject is this watch right here. This is the GA-B2100C-9A. Some people would refer to this as the Cassie Oak. Actually, there are several watches based around this similar design. People call it the Cassie Oak. And people have been asking me for a while, what do you think of the Cassie Oak? And I'm like, well, I don't know. We'll see. Because at first, see, the reason they call it the Cassie Oak is this kind of octagon shape around the bezel there. And that is reminiscent of the Royal Oak watch that a lot of watch enthusiasts have been really excited about. But I really wasn't familiar with the Royal Oak, so just having this shape didn't mean that much to me. The things that really attract me to a watch are the kind of things that are built into this watch here. The Royal Oak, yeah, I don't know. It's fine. If that's what you're into, that's fine. It just wasn't on my radar, so to speak. So when this first came out, this style from Casio, the one they started calling the Cassie Oak, it was introduced in the year 2019. And they came up with several variations, different color combinations, all kinds of different looks to it, but all with that basic shape. And then people found that there were modification kits out there, and people were getting into that too. So you could make just dozens and dozens of variations of this, or just buy them already from Casio in dozens and dozens of variations over the last 3 or 4 years. So why was I such a holdout and waited until just now to get one of these? Actually, it was just, it was just next to my Easter basket yesterday. So I thought, oh, okay, that's fine. And kind of a, pretty Easter color on this one. So what's the deal? Well, I had a few things that I wanted to get right before I bought one of these. First of all, I really like watches that are solar powered. So this one does have the tough solar. The initial releases on the Cassie Oaks didn't have tough solar, but this one has tough solar, so it'll charge itself just with exposure to everyday lighting conditions. I won't have to worry about changing a battery for many, many years, maybe more than 10 years, maybe more than 15 years. We'll see. But I've had great experience with my other tough solar watches. Don't have to worry about the batteries. Also, I really like a positive LCD. There are a lot of variations of the Cassie Oak out there with a negative LCD. I like the positive LCD, especially consider the size here. So here's, kind of a typical G-Shock square. That's about how big the digits are. Look at how small the readout is on this LCD. So I wanted to make sure that I would get an LCD that was really easy to see. So the positive LCD was important to me. Another thing I really like, like these G-Shock squares here, they're great because they have multiband 6. And I really like multiband 6. What that means is there's a built-in radio receiver in these watches that will receive time data from one of 6 transmitters around the world, and they'll automatically set themselves to the right time, what I call atomic time, and they'll stay synchronized to the correct time, indefinitely, as long as they get that radio reception overnight. So the initial Cassie Oaks, they didn't have multiband 6. But then they started making them with Bluetooth instead. So if I have an app on my phone or my tablet, the Bluetooth connection will connect to the watch, and it will synchronize it to the correct time. So it's not multiband 6. You do have to use a smartphone or a tablet to make that synchronization work. But once you're synchronized, again, you're going to get that, perfectly synchronized time right down to the second. And that's one of the things I really like. So when they came out with this particular line with the Bluetooth and the tough solar, that's when I got really, really interested. Now, there are some metal versions of this, and you can look at shockbase.org. That's a great resource that I like to look at. They have over 100 variations of this with or without tough solar and Bluetooth. There are some with metal, and they're kind of pricey. That's also an important factor to me. I don't like to spend tons of money on a watch. But this came in as part of the more affordable versions that I saw. So they came out with, half dozen of these, and 2 of them had positive displays and the other had negative displays. So then it got really, as far as price and features and everything, narrowed it down to just 2 watches. Was I going to get this one with the yellow case or the yellow bezel and, kind of yellow accents there, or was I going to get the one with the black? accents on it. And I found that these hour markers are a little brighter on this one. So this is the one that attracted me. Initial retail price when they first came out with this was $160, but I was watching the prices, and when it got down to below $130 on Amazon, that's when I decided, okay, now's the time. I'm going to go for it. So that's my long story of why it took me so long to finally get a Cassie Oak. Now at this point, I could get one of those modification kits and maybe replace this with metal, have a bracelet and a metal bezel on here. I could, I suppose, try and get my hands on one of the other colors, you know, the green or the blue or the black, and just make that change myself and keep the face as it is with that yellow marker there, that little, you know, pointer right there, and then have like, you know, a green bezel, a green band, you know, and there are third-party options as well. I could get a metal kit and do that. But I think if that happens, of course, you'll see me making a video about it, right? But otherwise, I think I'm going to just stick with this for a while, see how I like it. And again, it's got all the features I really like on a G-Shock. Oh, let me just, as long as I've got it here, before I get deep into the features, let me just show you what it looks like on the back. So you got that, you know, that stamped metal back that's held on by 4 screws. And here you see it has a quick release on you know, these pins here. So you could easily remove the watch band using the quick releases there. So I'm not sure exactly what they have in mind. They haven't released like a kit from Casio with all, you know, a variety of colors, but you could probably get that from third parties or whatever. And with the quick release on that spring bar, I don't know, it's tempting to do something. All right, carbon core guard. Okay, it's got all the tough features you would want in a G-Shock watch, and it's relatively thin. Let's compare it to something like this. So, you know, side by side, it doesn't look super thin by comparison, but it is on the thin side, especially when you consider that it has both analog and digital on there. It's one of the thinner watches, lightweight and comfortable, and I think I'm just going to have fun with this one. Okay, that's kind of why I bought it, just to have fun. All right, now let's go through the features. And well, before I do that, I should mention, okay, there's a Bluetooth app that you can use. And for some people, that would make it easier to get into things like setting the alarm and all the initial setup. Also makes it easy when you're changing time zones. You just connect to the app momentarily, and your smartphone or your tablet will tell this watch automatically what time zone you're in, and it will update that. So if you do a lot of traveling, that would be fun for that. But for the most part, most of the things you can do with the app, you can also do without the app. So if you don't really like the Bluetooth requirement, the connection to the app, you can get along fine without it. You won't get that automatic time synchronization, but this watch should stay accurate to within 15 seconds a month, even if you have no synchronization with the Bluetooth. Of course, if you do synchronize through the Bluetooth connection every day, and it will try to do that multiple times a day, then you're going to get accuracy down to the second, fractions of a second. You won't even notice if it's off by a fraction of a second. It'll just stay super accurate. But again, if you're just not into the apps and the Bluetooth thing, you can certainly live without it and have a very accurate watch. And, you know, if you're too concerned about it, maybe every couple times a month you can just synchronize or reset the seconds, and you're going to be just fine with this. There are some folks speculating that maybe eventually, maybe soon, I don't know, Casio's released a lot of versions of this watch. Maybe they will come out with one that has the multiband 6 synchronization built in, and then you won't need to use any Bluetooth to stay synchronized. That could happen. If it does, hey, I'll probably buy one. Especially since they're so affordable. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, since there's no official announcement that that's going to be happening, I'll live with the Bluetooth version and have some fun with it. So I started playing with this watch before reading any of the manuals. I just thought, could I figure this out on my own, since I have experience with a lot of different G-Shock watches? And for the most part, yeah, it all makes perfect sense. You can just muddle your way through this and figure it out. But let's just take a look. The pointer right there is pointing to the state of the battery, the low, medium, or high. Right now it's on a high charge. I set it outside on the deck where I got some sunlight this morning. It's on a high charge. And then this will also show you what modes you're in. Right now it's the regular timekeeping mode. So there's the local time on the analog hands. Also down there, the local time and seconds will appear here. There's also an indication that daylight saving time is what's on display here, DST. And then there'll be a little indicator whether an alarm is set to go and whether the hourly signal is set to go. So that's what you're going to see on your normal timekeeping mode. If I change modes by pressing the mode button, then I'm in the world time mode, and you can select some other time zone. I like UTC, but you can use the button down here to scroll as though you're going eastward on the map and choose some other time zone. And if I'm on one of these other time zones and I push the adjust button, hold that down, then that's where I can select daylight saving time either being on or off or auto display. And it uses the data that it's getting from the Bluetooth app to automatically update whether or not it's daylight saving time in these world time zones. So that's kind of nice. Okay, but I'm going to leave this just on automatic display. Go back here. And you'll notice that the analog hands get out of the way when you get into some of the setup features, making sure that they don't block this little LCD down there. So, okay, I'm just going to leave it in that other time zone because I'm going to use the app later on to quickly reset all this stuff. Okay, the next mode you'll see is the stopwatch mode. And I started the stopwatch last night just to see how far it would go. And right now it's 15 hours and 20 minutes almost. So this is a 24-hour stopwatch. If you don't stop it, it'll go 24 hours and it'll reset to 0 and then just keep on going. It operates just like a normal stopwatch, so typical on a lot of Casio and other digital watches. So I can start and stop the stopwatch down here. I've got my split time or lap time if I push the adjust button while it's going, and that'll give me that. If I stop the stopwatch and then I press the adjust button, that will reset it to 0. And for the first hour of operation, it shows minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second. After 1 hour, it shows the number of hours and then minutes and seconds. So, that's where you go with your true 24-hour stopwatch. I'm going to reset that right now and go to the next mode, which is the timer mode, countdown timer. And this can be any number of minutes and seconds from just 1 second all the way up to a full hour. So if it's set to all zeros, that's a true 1 hour countdown. And that's what that will do. But you can obviously reset that, and I can change that to some other duration. Like, for example, just hold this down. Let's make it a 30-minute countdown timer. And so there you go. Again, if you're familiar with these Casio watches, this is all going to seem like familiar territory, how to set this up and use this. Next is the alarm mode, and there are 5 alarms on here, plus the hourly signal. I can turn that hourly signal on and off just using the adjust button, just tapping it there. And here I can scroll through the alarms, and they're just set to default right now, but I could easily, change this to some other time for the alarm. The alarm's going to go for 10 seconds every day if it's set to go on, or I can set that off right now, and now it's not going to go. So again, if the alarm is set to go, the little alarm indicator box is showing there. Otherwise, if none of the alarms is set to go, there won't be a little box indicating alarm right there. And then we're back to our regular timekeeping mode. So pretty straightforward as that goes. Pretty familiar if you've got a lot of G-Shock watches. Now, from here, if I wanted to, my initial setup on this watch, right? I'll go from the regular timekeeping mode. I'll press and hold the adjust button until things start to blink. And when they do, first thing I'm going to do is set my home time zone. So it could be Denver, or I can go, to another time zone there. And again, this button is taking it like I'm going eastward on the map, finding some other time zone for my home time zone. Let's see. This one actually, the light button will take me westward on the map when I'm in this mode, so I can choose some other time zone. Let's pretend we're in Chicago. And there I go. Now the next, if I push mode again, this is where I can select whether I want daylight saving time to be on, automatically changing, from on and off, or I can have daylight saving time always off or always on. I'm going to leave it on automatic. Next, here's where I can manually set the time. So if I press the start button here, it would reset to the nearest minute, reset the seconds down to the nearest minute. Here I can choose a different hour and different minutes here. I'm kind of messing this up right now because I know that when I connect to the Bluetooth in just a few minutes, it's gonna fix all of that. Okay, so then here I can select again, whatever year, the month, and the date. So all those things you can manually set here. Here I can go with a 12-hour or 24-hour display in the LCD. Here I can select when it shows the month and date here in the LCD, I can have it do month first or date first. You've got that option there. And here the language, this is really just telling me what is the abbreviation going to be when it abbreviates the day of the week. Is it going to be in English, Spanish, that's French, German, Italian, or Russian? I've got those options right there. Next, key. So when I'm pressing the buttons to change modes, if the key is on, then it makes a little bit of a beep every time I change modes and start and stop, the stopwatch, all that stuff. But I can mute that right here, and then I can be a little bit more discreet. When it's in mute, it will still make a sound when you reach the end of a countdown timer or when you are, when the alarms go off. But other than that, it's not going to make beeps every time you push a button, change modes and stuff like that. So mute could be handy for some folks, or you can leave it on key, whichever you want. Next here, the light. So when I press the backlight, it's either going to come on for 3 seconds or it's going to come on for 1.5 seconds. So that's where I can select the duration. A lot of people like to keep it on a short duration so they won't drain the battery too much. But since this is solar powered, easy to recharge, I'll leave it on a long duration, and I'll show you the backlight here in just a moment. Next, receiving. So when it's connected to a Bluetooth device, like your smartphone, it will automatically try to receive a few times a day, and that will help it to synchronize the time correctly. But you can disable that by just turning that off. Also, this would be helpful if, they say if you're in some sort of facility where, there's some restrictions on radio interference, you're in a hospital, whatever, and you don't want your watch to be emitting any Bluetooth, any radio, then you can turn that off to kind of put it in, what we would call airplane mode sometimes, right? So, but I'm going to leave it on because, I want it to connect to the phone and set itself. And then power save, on or off. Power save, what that does is after the watch has not been in use for a long time, say overnight, it will turn off the display, and then after an extended period of time, it'll actually stop most of the functions just to save on power. So you can have that on or off. So when power save is on, it will put itself to sleep overnight. And the way to get it out of that sleep is to press any button or expose it to a good source of light. But if you don't want it ever to go to sleep like that, then you just turn power save off. So that's an easy thing to do. And those are all the setups there. Just a couple other things to keep in mind. As you saw, the hands moved out of the way when I'm in all these setups here. If, let's say, I'm going to take this back and say, let's go to the stopwatch, okay? And when the stopwatch is running, let's just say I don't want the hands to cover the LCD at all. See, right now they're covering that. It's going to make it hard for me to see what I'm doing with my stopwatch. So what I do is I press the light button, and while I'm holding it, I tap the mode button. And what that does, you see HND is blinking right there, meaning the hands. What this will do is it will park the hands in some part of the face that's not covering the LCD. And it'll keep doing that until you change modes, or if I don't do anything with the watch, then after about an hour, it'll go back to normal timekeeping on those hands anyway. But this allows me then to do whatever I want to with the stopwatch. And those hands, they're not showing the correct time right now, but they are not in the way of my stopwatch. So that's how you do that. And again, if I change modes, and one way, if I can change modes by toggling through all the different modes until I get back to timekeeping mode, or from here, one thing I can do, I'm going to reset my stopwatch. If I just hold this mode button for a couple seconds there, then it takes me directly back to the timekeeping mode, and you can see I've got the this indicator here that normally tells me what mode I'm in is now just telling me the state of the battery, which is high at this point. REM means there's some sort of reminder that's been set on this, and you do that through the Bluetooth. So are you ready? Let's look at Bluetooth real quick. Now, to use Bluetooth on here, you'll use the Casio Watches app. You can get this from the App Store. This is kind of a newer app for me. I've got some apps for other Casio watches that use Bluetooth. This one required me to have a Casio account in order to hook the watch up to it. So I had to give them my email address and my date of birth in order to set up an account. I don't know. In a sense, I'm like, yeah, why do I have to do this? Because the other apps, the other watches I've used in the past, I didn't need to do that. But all right, I trust Casio. I don't think they're going to do anything nefarious with my personal data, but it's just kind of annoying. And again, if you don't like that, if you're really opposed to that, you can certainly use this without the app. I'm okay. I'm okay. It just kind of bugged me. Okay, so with the app started here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold the mode button for a couple of seconds. It's going to prompt me, and then it's going to connect. I hear some beeping. So here it is. It's now connecting to my phone, and it just takes a moment here. And see, the first thing it did there was it went ahead and corrected the time on my phone, and that's based on my current location and the time on the phone, telling me, well, this is your actual time zone, and this is the actual time in that time zone. So now I'm going to get into the watch here, and just tap on that icon here. There's my watch. I'm going to go to my watch. So I already made the connection before. It's telling me that my battery state is not quite fully charged, but it's pretty good there. And it gives me some information here on the watch itself. And then right here is where I can go in and I can, I can do all these settings that I could otherwise do by pressing a whole series of buttons. Maybe it would be easier to just do it on the app. For example, right here I can select, let's see, alarm 1 is set, it was set for 6 a.m. Let's say I want to set that for 7 a.m. And all I have to do is press save, and now it's sent to the watch. And now the watch knows that, I want that one alarm to be at 7 a.m. I could set this one, let's just say, I want to set this alarm to 6:30, but let's say I don't want it to actually be set to go. I just want it to be set to 6:30 so I can easily turn it on later. So, that's what you can do with alarms. And could be, a lot faster and easier to do than pressing a whole series of buttons. Right now, my timer is set to 30 minutes. Let's say, well, I want that to be 45 minutes next time I use the timer, and I'll just set that right there. This won't start the timer, but it just means the next time I go to the timer mode on the watch, it'll be ready to go for 45 minutes. Here's the reminder. This is something you can only do with the app, but if you have got an important date that you'd like to set up, or maybe once a week you've got something that you like to do, so I can say, well, okay, let's set up a reminder. Here it can be only once, or weekly, monthly, yearly, or some period of time, a duration between a certain date and a certain date. So let's just make it for, let's see, I'm going to make it happen weekly, and we'll have it every Monday. And we'll say this is like, the reminder is to keep time, as though I need to be reminded. So every Monday I'm going to keep time, or whatever that needs to be. Then I'll send that to the watch. And now next time I check out the reminders on the watch, it'll say, and the little reminder thing has lit up there telling me, okay, there's an active reminder right now. And when I look at it, it'll tell me, I need to be reminded to keep time. Okay, here's my world time. And here I can select on the map some time zone that I want for my world time. So I'm not limited to just the time zones that the watch tells me about. I can scroll around the map and just kind of choose my location and say, well, let's make my world time zone, Buenos Aires in Argentina. And it'll tell me what the time is there, and I'll send that to the watch. So the next time I look up a world time on the watch, it'll be there. So you got like 300 cities you can choose from if you use the app, and you have fewer than that. You've only got, your basic standard time zones if you do it within the watch without using the app. Time synchronization, that just tells you some stuff about when time synchronization is going to happen, some of the settings there. So I'm going to kind of leave that on the defaults. I think we'll be fine there. And it will also tell me the last time it was able to synchronize. Here you can check the hand alignment here, and this is kind of fun. So if I say, well, let's take a look and see what we think of the hand alignment. Does that look right? Or does it need to be adjusted? You can push these buttons here on the left and right if you think the hand alignment is not quite right. I'm going to say that's fine. We can leave it as is. And what else do we got here? Phone finder. So there's a way that you can push a button on the watch and it will make a sound on your phone. You can set that up here. Watch settings. Here you can, set up the key sounds, the light duration, the watch display that will be showing you, 12-hour, month, day, the language, all of those things that you could do on the watch. You can do them here, and it might be quicker to do it that way. Now, if I've decided I'm through here, I don't want to be connected anymore, it'll either time out after a certain amount of time if I'm not doing any interaction between the watch and the phone. After a few minutes, it'll time out by itself, or I can just press a button here, and this will stop the connection. And look at that. In the reminder now, it is reminding me to keep time. So that's kind of fun there. Looks like I drained the battery down a little bit. Now it's showing medium here. And what I'll do is I'll just give it this watch was in a box for several months probably before I bought it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of more direct light, maybe a little sunshine through the window or something like that, and make sure that gets topped off. But I'm really not worried about it. As long as the battery state is in medium or high, all the functions will work properly. If it gets down to low or super low, then some of the functions will start to shut down until it's able to get a better charge. So that's what you'll find on this watch. Now down here in this display, if I just tap the adjust button in the timekeeping mode, I can select whether I want it to just show me the day of the week down there. Tap that again. It'll show me the local time digitally that should match the analog time there. If I push it again, then it gives me that reminder. And if I push it again, it just gives me the date there, either in the month date or date month configuration that I've selected. So you've got some selections there, some choices on how you want this the default display down there. Also, I need to show you when I'm in world time mode. Okay, so right now I've got it to, it's, Buenos Aires is my world time, and the local time here in Utah is right there. But if I want to quickly swap those, what I'll do is I'm going to press this light button and then tap the adjust button at the same time. And there you go. What that just did is it swapped the local time and the world time. So again, if you're traveling, if you're kind of going between time zones and you want to set that up in advance, the time zone I'm going to versus the time zone that's my home time zone, you can quickly swap those when you're in world time mode. Two upper buttons together, and there you go. And it's just kind of fun to watch that. Also, I showed you how you could check the hand alignment when you were using the app, but let me go back to my regular home timekeeping mode. If I press and hold this adjust button for like 5 seconds, just keep on pressing, then see how that little hand thing is blinking. This is another way to check the hand alignment without using the app. So here I can adjust that back and forth by pressing buttons. I won't do that right now because I think the alignment is fine. But again, there's almost everything you want to do. You have the option of doing it without the app if that's your choice. And if I just press the adjust button again now, then it goes back to normal. And here I'm in just normal timekeeping. So there you go. This isn't the best conditions to demonstrate the backlight, but it gives you an idea here. If I push the backlight button, that's kind of nice. So there's a little light there that lights up the face in addition to a backlight inside the LCD. So I think that shows up really nicely. I do like the way that looks. There's also some lume or glow in the dark material on these two hands. So, that could come in handy. Looks like, is there some on that little mode indicator as well? All right, so nothing earth shattering there, but it's kind of nice to have a little bit of lume on the hands there, again, to go along with that really nice backlight. I think that's a great backlight. It doesn't have an automatic backlight like some of my other G-Shock watches, but it works just fine. Let's do an official weigh-in with just my regular kitchen scale here. Okay, 52 grams. So that's very similar to just a kind of a standard G-Shock, G-Shock square. If you got a G-Shock square with like a bracelet on it, it might come in a little bit heavier than that. But so right in line with what I would expect from a G-Shock. Good looking watch. It's a pretty soft material. It's got that nice black keeper on it, black buckle. So there you go, my friends. I finally got into the Cassie Oak world, and I like it. I think I'm going to stick with this one for now, but we'll see. If they come up with different versions. They have my interest now. I like this one. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one, and if I decide to get more, I'm sure I'll make a video that you can watch. So I hope you will come back for more videos right here on this channel on the Good Timekeeping Show.